What's up, everybody? Tonight we're going to talk about Stanionis versus Boots Ennis fight coming up this weekend. Also, Canelo Alvarez versus Bud Crawford potential showdown when we come right back. Welcome to another episode of Ring Walk Boxing Podcast. I am Bean. And today's sponsor is Ring Walk Boxing Podcast merch. In the description area, underneath the comment section, if you're interested in getting some merch online, please feel free to do so. We got it here for you 24/7. All around the world, international. They will ship it to you for your convenience. All right, y'all. So it's quite a bit going on in boxing. And I just kind of want to, hey, greetings to you, fam. Appreciate you. Much love, cuzzo. So I want to be a person and a guy of my word. So I'm going to kind of go based off some feed and a post I did on FB because I kind of like to bring everybody together. And I'm just going to read a couple of comments off this feed. And for those who really want to get involved, if you're on that FB feed, make sure you jump on YouTube, hit the like button when you're in the chat room. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell notification as well so that you know when I do go live or I'm on here, you'll get a notification and let you know. Because like I said, if you want to get involved more in depth and you like to debate, just keep it very respectful, no personal insults, and come to the chat and let's talk about some different things. Because just keep in mind, folks, we all are different people. We all think differently. So it's really not necessarily who's always right, who's always wrong. A lot of it is strong opinion. Some of it is facts. Some is strong opinions. And some of it is just being subjective or whatever. But let's just have fun with what we're doing. This is a fun platform here. I don't want any hard feelings, none of that. Just have fun debating. And that's just what it is. All right, so let me jump into this real quick. And the post I made earlier on FB was this. And I was just kind of having fun. I said, I already know a few of y'all going to jump on me for this. But David, in quote, the boogeyman, in quotations, Benavidez, a.k.a. the Mexican Monster. And I know there's a lot of Canelo fans, so respect to the Canelo fans as well. I'm not one of those guys. But, I respect anybody who steps in the ring. I respect them at that respect level. But I'm not necessarily a fan of Canelo per se, myself. All right, so one of the first comments was by Ali. So shout out to you, mate. You said your comment was very casual take, mate. The facts are pretty clear for anyone that follows the sport closely. Arthur, Beterbiev, and Bivol are inarguably number 1 and number 2 in the division. Speaking of the light heavyweight 175-pound division. Ali goes on to say, they have had 2 epic fights that have actually done good numbers. They agreed to do the rematch immediately after the fight. So number 1 and number 2 have agreed to settle the trilogy. To do it probably down to current number 2 and in many people's mind, still possibly the number one, Arthur Beterbiev, being 40 years old and at the back end of his career. Benavidez got gifted his email title when the WBC were not even next in line to mandate a mandatory, just shows how crooked and biased they are. Benavidez is a good fight for anyone, but let's be real, there was no clamor before the WBC did their crooked mess. Everyone knew there was going to be a trilogy, so it's no surprise. I don't like throwing the C word around lightly, but your takes. So yeah, we always go back and forth, me and Ali. So I kind of replied back to him, and then my boy Lucas McCain from Los Angeles. What's up, Lucas, man? Out there in beautiful Cali. Please tell me y'all got some sunshine, because this Midwest Cincinnati weather tripping. So then it became a lot of back and forth banner. Callum Hayes says, "Who cares about unbeaten? He's beaten Plant." Speaking of David Benavidez, he's beat Caleb Plant, Morrell, Andrade, Lemieux, and Durrell. More than paid his dues. So his perspective is basically that, in fact, David Benavidez has paid his dues. So for him to get granted a belt due to default, because Bivol chose to do a trilogy with Beterbiev, which we can't be mad at as well, but in the same aspect, that belt got relinquished. So now that belt goes over to David Benavidez. So I get the point of what Callum is saying as well. And then Lucas comes back to say that Demetrius Andrade was a hype job. I wouldn't say necessarily. Andrade had a different style. He met his match, but hey, a lot of boxers do. At some point in time, they meet their match. They have a person that you may call a boogeyman because of their style of fighting. It may not compromise a certain style. See, fighting, we all know, is styles make fights. So certain styles suit certain guys more than other styles. That's just boxing, man. There's so many different examples of that. My guy Lewis Barrett, shout out to Lewis Barrett. He said, "Boogeyman, ? The guy who went the distance with a retired 40-year-old and couldn't buckle his legs. The guy who got dropped by 8-fight novice. Don't make me laugh. Bivol and Beterbiev would both cook this stiff. Zero power having plotter." All right, I see you got some choice words for David Benavidez. I personally think that when people say that, it's they don't give him credit. They don't give David Benavidez credit. But I mean, from the words of David Benavidez and from the way he's trying to walk the walk, to me, it looks like this is a guy who wants that smoke. He says he's not just saying he wants to smoke for clout chasing. It's like he actually wants that Canelo fight. He's been wanting that Canelo fight forever at 168 when he was mandatory at one point. Now he's at 175 pounds and still brings up Canelo Alvarez. So David Benavidez, he wants that Canelo smoke. I don't think Canelo wants the David Benavidez smoke. That's what I think it is. And unfortunately, a lot of Canelo fans don't seem to want to give props to David Benavidez because they're so high strung on being fans of Canelo that sometimes that bias is going to be there. But there's even some Canelo fans, even some people in the community of Canelo that say, hey, We see what he's doing, and we're tired of it. We didn't want to see him fight Jaime Munguia. We didn't want to see Canelo fight Berlanga. We didn't want to see him fight John Ryder. We don't want to see him fighting School, who he's about to fight here soon. They're tired of Canelo making these big money fights off of these green opponents or opponents they don't feel they're going to give him a very they're not going to be a lot of resistance, so to speak. They want to see Canelo fight somebody that they'll feel will be at his level and really, really make him work. And I think right now it's almost like he's trying to coast through these last couple of fights without fighting a David Benavidez or somebody like that. Because if you hear him in his interviews, he doesn't show much interest in David Benavidez, or he'll discredit him. He'll say, "What has he done?" He'll do so many things to try to detour or deflect a question when it comes to David Benavidez. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's sad to say that will most likely be a fight we never see. We probably won't ever see David Benavidez versus Canelo Alvarez, but I'll say this much, as most of us do know, it's not on the behalf of David Benavidez. He's tried everything he could to make this fight happen. So don't let that be a blemish or hold that against David Benavidez, because he wants that smoke. All right, and Addison says, shout out to Addison. You said, imagine thinking a man that boxed 24 rounds with someone that has more power, more skills, more educated pressure, and more titles and more names on his resume than David Benavidez. And Arthur Beterbiev is afraid of Benavidez. Couldn't be me. Not to mention the final more in Beterbiev's favor is the fact he brings in more of a payday for Bivol, which he does bring in more. I do get that point. He does bring in more of a payday for Bivol. That is true. You know, Bivol and Beterbiev is going to be the higher pay scale. You know what I'm saying? So I get to an extent. But then I could also look at somebody like Boots Ennis. He did an interview recently saying that I'm not all about money. Yeah, I fight for money. Yeah, I'm don't get it twisted. I fight for money, but I also fight for legacy, and I fight for being that guy that gets this belt here or gets this Ring Magazine belt, you know, etc. So Boots is looking at it from a standpoint of legacy and what he's going to be remembered as once his career is over. He's looking at that higher on a higher scale than the financial money. So he's willing to take less money for the bigger name fight versus another person who might say, well, I'm not going to fight this guy because I want more money. Boots is just the opposite. He's about legacy. You know, so a lot of people bring up the money thing, but then you have guys like Boots and other people who are more about stamping their name in the history of boxing, that they want to fight the best. They want to say that I was the guy that cleared out my division, that I fought every opponent I could fight to the point where there was nobody left. And that's what you get with Boots Ennis, a throwback fighter mentality. A lot like Sean Porter. Give me all the smoke. I'll pretty much fight anybody. You got to give a high level of respect to these guys. And I replied to Addison saying, a lot of good points, but a little semantics as well. Styles make fights. Wilder had many people scared of his right hand. So the narrative became Tyson Fury won't duck a lesser power punching, less pressure style Alexander Usyk. Yet Fury did his best to keep pushing off their fight. In the first fight, Usyk nearly knocked him out. So people were so overtaken and blinded by the fact that Wilder had a one punch knockout power punch, that they thought that there was no way a smaller Usyk coming up from cruiserweight is going to take on a 6'9" giant like Tyson Fury, who weighs at like 270, 280 pounds. They said, no way. If Wilder can't knock out, the narrative was, if Wilder can't knock out Tyson Fury, ain't no way a smaller cruiserweight becoming a heavyweight gonna knock out Tyson Fury. That was the narrative, y'all. But what ended up happening? The first fight, Fury was battered from one side of the ring to the other side of the ring by the smaller, quote unquote, the guy he called a middleweight. That same guy he called a middleweight, Usyk, beat him from pillar to post. And he was held up by the ropes. The only reason why he wasn't knocked down to the canvas is the ropes held him up. So styles make fights, y'all. So I won't say because fighter A can beat fighter B, that means that fighter A could also beat fighter B. I don't believe in the triangle theory at all. I never did. And JT, you're hey man, I gotta keep it real, bro. I'm looking at your reply, but you seem to be one of those guys that may fit into that narrative, man. You're saying Fury won first fight. He did not win that first fight. No, he did not. Usyk put it on him. More punch output, and he even though, what I'm saying, it could be argued that it was a tight fight, but with the knockdown, Usyk definitely won the fight. There's no denying that, man. You just don't want to give Usyk his credit, man. You got to give a person their credit. Like I said in my last podcast, sometimes I'm not a fan of a certain fighter, but I don't ever let that take me to the point where it's like, okay, I'm not a Lennox Lewis fan. I'm not a Mayweather fan. So therefore, such and such beat Lennox Lewis, all because I wasn't a Lennox Lewis fan. Nah. Lennox Lewis, I wasn't a fan of you, but I've grown to respect you in hindsight when I look back at your career, because he pretty much fought everybody out there and pretty much won majority of the fights, pretty clearly. You know what I'm saying? So shout outs to Lennox Lewis, the UK legend. Shout out to Jeff. You say Jeff Goldman, my bro. You say you really think it's whack how people are trying to clown dude, referring to David Benavidez, for the way he got his belt, when it's been a known thing that the MFs who got or had the belt been actively ducking him for years. In some strange twist of fate, justice, he finally is the champion he always deserved to be, because these fighters don't want it with him. So everybody got some slick email champ comment really needs to shut up and act like they've been watching him work for the past 10 years. Shout outs to Sergio Figueroa. You say he's the real deal. Shout out to my guy, Junior Bell. You say, nah. Last I checked, 8 mil is less than 10 mil. But maybe someone can tell me that I'm wrong. Shout outs to Jamie Naquin. Jamie said, I'll have to respectfully disagree. Bivol isn't a duck like Canelo or Tank. He and Beterbiev just fought two great fights that were razor close. They're 1-1. They need the trilogy. I feel for Benavidez, but this must happen. Well, just in my opinion, I mean, you made a lot of good points right there. So shout outs to Jamie. I personally feel like, I know you're saying they're 1-1 because technically that's the ruling. But in my opinion, I felt like Bivol won the first fight. I just felt like he went back in fight number 2 and beat him more convincingly. He stepped it up a little bit more. He did a little bit more of what he didn't do in the first fight. And he was just as sharp. His defense was just as good. But I felt like he edged the first fight, really. And, or even if you gave Beterbiev the first fight, in the second fight, Bivol beat him a lot better than Beterbiev would have beat him in the first fight, if that makes sense. So I don't even see why a third fight is needed because, like I said, I feel like Bivol's the more skilled fighter, the more superior skill fighter. So I don't know what Beterbiev can do in the third fight that he couldn't do in these first two fights. I think he's going to just get frustrated, and Bivol's going to keep doing what Bivol does. You know, he's a technical boxer. He's good all around, defensively and offensively. All right, shout out to my guy Ulysses. Ulysses, you said everyone says Benavidez is not the boogeyman, but we haven't had a single person at the top of the division say, you know what, let me shut this guy up. They all claim he's disrespectful, yet we have Canelo out here grabbing his crotch because Berlanga and his daughter flipping Bivol off. Maybe they don't want to give Benavidez his shot because Canelo, Bivol, and Beterbiev are running tours Turkey Al Sheikh. Meanwhile, David Benavidez being loyal to Al Heyman and not running around like a fool for the biggest payday, yet people don't respect him for his loyalty to his promoters. Get out of here with everyone's double standards. But mark my words, you can't run forever. Shout outs to Mike Ware, who has been on the platform a few times. Mike says, the trilogy took precedence over David. They wanted to do the trilogy and to have David on the undercard against Smith. Sad thing, he says he's a Vegas fighter. Who is going to fight? Vegas won't pay as much as England. Thabo, you said Beterbiev gave Bivol immediate rematch. Bivol is doing the honorable thing by returning the favor. What's wrong with that? Nothing wrong with that. That's actually a very well stated argument. So respect to Thabo. Michael Sanders, what's up, mate? Shout out to you over there in UK. You said nothing boogeyman about him, mate. Every chance he's had at the Canelo fight, he's ruined it himself. Shout outs to John Carr, 513. What's up, man? You say this is the only boogeyman I know. Laugh out loud. Why does Beterbiev gotta be so old for? He's 40 years old. I would think his career is almost over. I got Bivol over Benavidez by simply outboxing him. I feel like Benavidez is a tad overrated, just my opinion. And you have the gif of Michael Myers, my favorite scary movie legend. I appreciate that, man. I'm a Michael Myers fan all day. Um, so yeah, this ended up being a pretty good thread. We got some good dialogue. Shout outs to Jimmy Bryan. You said like Joe Joyce was and Martin Bacoli was recently, aka Boogeyman. So me and you kind of laugh about that. That was an inside joke. That's funny right there. All right, y'all. So I'm gonna wrap up the that part of the show, and I'm gonna talk about a few other things. All right. So Keith One Time Thurman, whose most recent fight was over in Australia, he won by stoppage, by knockout. Um, he has been making statements uh, in different interviews that he's still hopeful to one day get a shot with Errol Spence. Um, so to the viewers out here, do you think that we will ever see Keith Thurman versus Errol Spence? Two fighters from the same stable, PBC, from the same island. Will they ever get that fight to come to fruition? If you feel like yes or you feel like no, just let me know so in the chat. And for the meantime, what do you see Errol Spence doing if he does fight? Because the last fight with Fandora, it never happened. It slipped through the cracks for whatever reasons, and Fandora had to fight another opponent. So let me know what y'all think. What will Errol Spence do next, and what's the next move for Keith Thurman in y'all's opinion? And let's just talk hypothetically. If Spence and Thurman actually do fight in the future, what would be your prediction? How does that fight play out? Let me know in the chat or in the comment. Also, um, from my understanding, it's not a sign fight, so it's not official. But heavy talks of Canelo Alvarez fighting Bud Crawford uh, is surfacing all over the internet. There's interviews and talks about this from Bud Crawford and from Canelo. So there's a very good chance we may see Bud Crawford, who's like a up and coming rising star and a pound for pound in his own right, versus another pound for pound Canelo Alvarez. But Canelo Alvarez is in the 168-pound division, whereas Bud Crawford was at 147 for a long time, and then came up to 154 pounds to fight Madrimov. So if he does fight Canelo Alvarez, he will have to go from 154 and jump up to 168. So that's a big jump in weight. Majority of people say Canelo wins, but then there are a handful of people who feel like Bud has the overall better skill, the speed, the footwork, the angles, the combinations, the ring IQ, the youth, that he pretty much has all the intangibles needed to beat somebody like Canelo Alvarez. Because to beat somebody like Canelo Alvarez, although I'm not necessarily a fan of Canelo, I give credit where it's due, right? Well, Canelo Alvarez has a very good chin, a very good chin. I don't believe he's ever been dropped in his career. Um, you rarely ever see him bothered. Like, he might get frustrated, but never like really hurt or buckled. He could take a good body shot. So Canelo, from top to bottom, he's a true threat. And at best, if Bud did beat him, it would have to be by like a unanimous decision. It couldn't be one of those close fights. If it's a close fight, it's going to most likely be awarded to Canelo Alvarez. Because even when he lost from Dimitri Bivol, which was a clear win for Dimitri Bivol, the judges had certain scorecards that were a lot higher than they should have been on the side of Canelo Alvarez. And it was a clear win for Bivol. So I say that to say Bud would have to win convincingly on points to get the nod if he is to fight and be victorious against Canelo Alvarez. Also circulating on social media and YouTube and different interviews. There was a face-off a few days ago with Big Baby Miller out of Brooklyn, New York, USA, versus Fabio Wardley out of UK. So you have somebody from over here in America with somebody from over across the pond over in UK, and they had their face-off or whatever. Well, sometime after that face-off, according to Fabio Wardley in his interview, there was a diss song aimed at Big Baby Miller, and Big Baby Miller took offense to it and was just off the hinges. He's been all over social media so upset, saying that's total disrespect. He made a diss song about me and where he comes from. It don't go down like that. You know what I'm saying? Being from Brooklyn, New York, you make a diss song about me, it's on the floor, it's on site, all that kind of stuff. Well, Fabio Wardley, he did respond to that. He says that he didn't even know a diss song was ever made, and that somebody took his voice and took AI and made a song using AI. He said it wasn't him. So when Big Baby Miller was going off about it, he said, I didn't know what this song was ever made because I never went in the studio and made no song to diss that man, according to Fabio Wardley. And I myself, I haven't heard this song, but maybe we'll find it through the web or something. So that only intensified this upcoming fight in June for Fabio Wardley versus Big Baby Miller, because now it's got real personal. So I look forward to these two big heavyweights. And by no means do I overlook the younger Fabio Wardley. He might be a problem. He may be a problem, y'all. And also I want to say shout outs to my guy, Counterpunch Boxing, Kurt DeVille. Shout out to my bro. Hey y'all. Sorry for the technical difficulties. So in case you didn't get that part, let me go and rewind back a little bit. I was talking about Fabio Wardley and the fact that a diss song was released and Big Baby Miller took offense to it, as if the diss song was made about him from Fabio Wardley. Fabio Wardley denies that he's ever made a diss song about Big Baby Miller. Also, in trending news, there has been footage of Anthony Joshua training with perhaps a new trainer or an added trainer. Anthony Chill Wilson. And shout outs to Kurt DeVille of Counterpunch Boxing News YouTube channel. He had some footage of the training of Anthony Joshua with trainer Anthony Chill Wilson. It was just showing some different angles of AJ, and one thing I did see in the training I liked was AJ wasn't moving as much in those straight lines. When he fought Daniel Dubois, when he was caught with that overhand punch, it was because he was moving back in a straight line, and he also didn't have his guard up. Well, in this footage I saw of him training, you don't really see him doing a lot of defensive blocks and head movement, but what you did see, him not moving in straight lines. When he's throwing his combinations, he's doing a little bit like of a sidestep and kind of angling in different in a different perimeter or whatever. It's not like he's in that straight line. He's kind of doing this. He's kind of moving around in different angles versus in a straight line where he could be easily caught by his opponent. So that's one thing I'm pretty sure he's drilling with his new trainer, Anthony Chill. Yeah. So that that footage, was just a little something, but nothing too over the top, but enough to kind of give us an idea that AJ may be working with another trainer, which may be Anthony Chill Wilson. So shout outs to Kurt DeVille, Counterpunch Boxing News, on that clip there. And in closing, I want to talk about a little bit about the Boots Ennis fight for this Saturday. Bozzy Ennis did an interview with Ring Magazine, and he said Boots versus Stanionis will indeed be a good fight. He said it'll be a fight that's going to probably bring out the savage and the real skilled side of Boots. That we will most likely see a more defensively responsible Boots Ennis on Saturday. He's not going to be probably looking for that KO like he does with most guys, because he has to be careful on what's coming back at him. So he's going to be very defensively sound, and he's going to be very methodical in his strategic manner. But he definitely said this is going to be the type of fight that Boots gets up for. Like certain fights he fights, it's like his dad was saying, he would be looking out in the crowd, doing stuff like that while he's in the ring, because he's not really too focused on that opponent, because he's not that interested. Like, it might be an opponent he done beat already, and he's fighting him again, and he's like, he's up there looking around the ring like that, and still wins the fight. But I think this Saturday you're gonna see a very vigilant, a very focused Boots Ennis that's going to be switched all the way on, because Stanionis by no means he's no walkthrough, he's no step over, none of that. I want to say he's from Lithuania, and Stanionis is coming to stand on business this Saturday. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing these two lock horns and get it on. Get it on. And so shout outs to Bozzy Ennis, the dad of Boots Ennis. Shout outs to Boots Ennis. Shout outs to Stanionis. Now Bozzy Ennis was saying in an interview as well The potential future rematch could happen with Brian Norman Jr. It could be a future fight for Boots. Virgil Ortiz is a fight they had been wanting